there, Star Wars collectors, and welcome to another Bosk's Bounty video, and welcome to episode 155 of Ask Boss Bounty, the weekly Q&A series that drops every Sunday, where I take your questions from the comment section below and do my best to answer them. So if you do want to be featured on next week's episode, remember to leave your question in the comments and we can keep this series going. Before we get going, I just want to say a huge thank you to my latest Patreon supporter, Stephen Powell. Thank you so much for supporting the channel in that way. It is greatly appreciated, and if you are interested in becoming a Patreon supporter or channel member, the links are in the description below. With all that being said, if you happen to enjoy this video or any of my other videos, don't forget to drop a like down below because that really helps the video and the channel. And we're going to get straight onto the first question. D-Rex Zane says, "Hey Boss Bounty, love your videos, thanks for all the info. Question for next week, am I the only one wondering why they never made an Anakin Skywalker Return of the Jedi non-hologram 6-inch or 3.75-inch figure? They did in the 90s, thanks for the video." Well, to be honest, I think, and I was always confused with this when I was a child as well, that this one is supposed to be Ghost Anakin, like hologram Anakin. He's looking a bit pale there, isn't he? And the card back for this one is definitely a picture or a sort of drawing of Anakin when he was a Force ghost. And of course, you never actually see him like that outside of his Darth Vader outfit, you know, when he's not a ghost. So I think that figure is supposed to reflect that. But you're right, we could really do with one of these in the vintage collection, especially for those people that want to complete the original 96. He's certainly a figure that is needed. Maybe next year with the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary they'll do that. I kind of think that they probably won't, but we can always hope. Lamar Avery, who is a great supporter of the channel, always comments on my videos, so thank you so much, my friend. He says, with all the Mandalorian warrior figures that were just released this year, do you think we'll ever get vehicles for them like airspeeders or their starfighters? And as much as I'd like to say, yep, definitely we will, I really don't think we will, unfortunately. Vehicles seem to be a premium these days. We don't really seem to be getting any vehicles at all, do we? You know, we're going to be getting the speeder bike, but I think when we do get vehicles, they will more than likely be reserved for, you know, original trilogy and the Mandalorian. That's just my personal feelings on it anyway. CBZ said, "Nice video, Bosk. I have a question for next week. When do you think the new Phase 2 Clone Trooper will be revealed, and do you expect Hasbro to go all out with it for repaints and such for the 20th anniversary Clone Wars line?" Well, first off, I do think that the figure will be revealed pretty soon, in the next 3 or 4 weeks, hopefully, because it is my understanding that it will be in Wave 1 of next year. I could be completely wrong about that, but that's my feelings and kind of what I've heard in and around the community. So hopefully we'll get to see that figure soon. In terms of will they repaint it a lot and stuff like that, I would imagine if the figure ends up being the definitive Clone Trooper, then of course we'll probably see, you know, new 212s and 501st and things like that. They're not going to waste an all new sculpt just on the one figure. So yeah, I would expect to see repaints galore for that. I've got to say, it does worry me slightly about that figure. I'm very sort of nervous about what it's going to look like, because I would much prefer it if it was more something like this than this. Because of the oversized helmet, the skinny legs. This one seems to be in much more better proportions, and it does worry me because Hasbro still doesn't seem to have sorted out the oversized helmet issues. If we look at Axe Woves right here, they decided not to give him a swappable head with the helmet, and in the end we got an oversized helmet. So they still have these issues, and if they end up doing that with the new Clone Trooper, the Phase 2 clone, it's going to be seriously disappointing. Riley Bob says, "Great vid as always, Boss. Question for next week. With the last Hasbro Q&A, there was a mention of HasLab figure packs to knock out groups of figures in a single swoop. Would you rather go this route and get teams at once, or have them sprinkled in the lines? Would this take out of TVC budget from other figures if they did? Thoughts? As always, keep up the great work. Cheers." Well, the second part of that question is the budget. It wouldn't take out of the budget because, you know, these figure packs would be like a HasLab style thing where essentially the fan is fronting up the money. We're basically paying them to be produced because, let's face it, there's no other way that we're going to get them otherwise. That's the reality of it. In terms of sprinkling them in, yeah, again, you know, the reality of it is we are going to be old, grey and wrinkly before we get you know, all of the New Hope original trilogy heroes, for example, if they're just going to be sprinkling them in, if they're going to be sprinkling in the Rogue One team, the rest of the team for the Rogue One figures, Solo, you know, all those kinds of things, Andor figures. It's going to take a very, very long time for them to sort of produce those figures. So figure packs is probably the only way that we're going to be able to do that. You know, it's not ideal, I know. How else are we going to be able to do that? I'd love to know. Let me know, somebody in the comment section below, if they have a better idea of how we can get those characters. Sci-fi question for you, Tim. Just recently purchased a lovely custom Dejarik table and chairs, plus some other Falcon interiors. What would be the best C-3PO figure I could get to be in a seated position? Do any have knee joints? All the ones I have seem to have none. Cheers. Absolutely, Si. The one that you want, my friend, is this one here. This is from the one that comes with the Ewok throne. You can get him in the Saga collection, and I think then he was repacked into the Legacy collection and maybe even to the Saga Legends as well. And as you can see, he does have the bendy knees, so you can definitely sit him up at that table playing Dejarik, which would be awesome. Chris Morales says, Bosk, great show like always. 2 questions this week. Did Bosk ever speak in the cartoon Clone Wars shows? I can't recall if he did, but if he didn't, I think we should petition for your voice to be edited in for him. Honestly, mate, I really do not think that is a great idea, but he did speak in the Clone Wars. I will try and play a little clip so you can see what he sounds like. He didn't say a lot, though, to be fair.
I'll be ready when you arrive.
HasLab question. With the return of the Jedi being the focus for Hasbro, can we see a Death Star, Mon Calamari Cruiser or Star Destroyer for HasLab? With Lego making a Star Destroyer, I can't see why Hasbro couldn't do it as a HasLab. We need some of these ships in the collection. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would absolutely love Hasbro to put out a Star Destroyer or Super Star Destroyer in the size that Lego did them. That would be awesome. You know, the whole sort of sides could open out and some of the panels could lift off and what have you, and you could have some of the interior and stuff like that. But it would be huge. I think a Star Destroyer would probably be bigger than the barge, for example. It'd be at least 4 or 5 foot long and maybe 2 or 3 feet wide. I think, you know, it may be a little bit too big for them to do, but don't get me wrong, it would be absolutely awesome. Eric Cosgray says, hey boss, do you think we'll ever get some of the old battle packs reissued or even the old comic duo packs? I loved them when I was younger and now they cost a lot on the secondary market, even for incomplete and single figures. I'm not too sure if we'll get like repacks of old battle packs, because it all really depends on, you know, the quality of the figure these days. For example, I know that these guys were included in quite a lot of battle packs and the old style ARC Troopers and things like that. And those figures are out of date now, so they're not going to repack those essentially. The comic packs is something that does definitely interest me though, because obviously we've had the publishing figures in the Black series, and if they were to do that in the vintage collection or 3 3/4, then the obvious way to do that is with a comic and maybe with 2 figures, like, you know, like the comic packs that they used to do before. That would be cool though, and I would love to know all of your suggestions in the comment section below of, you know, potential comic 2-packs. That would be awesome. Rob Ernest says, great vid as always, boss. Question for next week includes spoilers. I hope you're enjoying the Andor series as much as I am. What are your top 3 characters from the show that you would like to see in the vintage collection that haven't been announced? Also, since Hasbro likes doing repaints, do you see them releasing a Black Squadron X-Wing like the ones seen in Saw Gerrera's hideout? Keep up the excellent content. Well, the first part of your question, I'm going to save that because I'm going to be doing a whole video about, you know, my most wanted figures from the Andor show. Just to let you know, I'm absolutely loving the series. I think it's, you know, on another level. It is so good. I know some people think it's a bit slow and even some people think it's boring. I'm completely the opposite. I think it's some of the best Star Wars that we've ever had. In terms of the Black Squadron X-Wing, I was only talking about this with my buddy Nick, Obi-Wan Kenobi, just yesterday, because I did check out what type of X-Wing that was, and it looks like it is a T-65, which is the same as Luke's. Correct me if I'm wrong in the comment section below, which means it would be a very easy one for Hasbro to do. Of course, we'd all moan because it's that same sculpt that we've got with the dodgy wing mechanism. But if you want a Black Squadron or Partisan X-Wing, whatever you want to call them, you know, that's what they'll do. That's what they'll repaint. And I've got to say, you know, I would quite like it. Maybe packing 2 tubes or something would be pretty awesome. But I could see them doing that because it's an easy one for them to do, essentially. P Diddy 82 says, hey BB, new-ish subscriber here. I'm slowly getting drawn into the vintage collection. Good man, good man. My question is, with the anniversary of Return of the Jedi, do you think they will re-release Jabba, a core and iconic character from the film that regular or new collectors have no chance of getting our hands on? I'm optimistic that with the future release of the Boba Fett's throne room, they'll give us Jabba to put in it. In your experience, do you think my gut feeling is right? Thanks. So this is a question that I think I may have covered a couple of episodes ago if you didn't manage to catch that one. And I think it's a possibility. It would sort of seem right, wouldn't it? If they're going to be doing that throne room, I don't think they're going to be expecting you to populate it with Fat Bib, essentially, and, you know, no other figures from the Book of Boba Fett. I think a lot of people are going to want to recreate Return of the Jedi Jabba's throne room, and to do that we need Jabba. As I mentioned before, I think on that previous video, there is a unnamed playset that Jason from Yakface has been sort of teasing us with. Maybe that could be, you know, Jabba and his throne. Just maybe. I don't know. It would seem sensible in the year of the Return of the Jedi, the 40th anniversary. So let's keep our fingers crossed for that, because I'm sure a lot of people are with you, my friend, that, you know, need a Jabba. I have the one on the sail barge, but I would like to keep him on the sail barge. I don't want to keep moving him from the throne room to the sail barge and vice versa. I need two of them, essentially. And JH17 says, thank you for your outstanding videos. Question for next week. Do you think there will be any way to obtain Boba Fett's throne room for those like myself that did not pre-order on Hasbro Pulse? I missed the deadline and would love to get my hands on a set. Also, just curious, do you use the same exact Bosk figure in every video? So second part of your question is, yes, I use this figure. He's kind of like the mascot of my channel. He's in pretty much every video, unless I'm doing a video solely about vintage Star Wars, and then I'll kind of use the original vintage Kenner version. But in terms of the throne room, yeah, unfortunately, I think if you haven't pre-ordered it now, you've missed the boat, basically. I think it was up for a fair amount of time for people to order it, and then they kept extending it as well. So I am really sorry that you didn't manage to get one, buddy. You know, that is not good. Hopefully some store might have overstock or something once they sort of ship them all out. Maybe some more will come up available, but other than that, it'll probably be the secondary market. Aaron Bailey says, thanks for your videos, I really enjoy them. Question for next week: with a few recent releases of EU figures for the Black Series, do you think Hasbro will make some for the upcoming TVC? I love Expanded Universe and always want more figures from it. Thanks. And David Mesner says, second this, and Bosk, which EU figures would you choose first? So I think definitely, you know, Expanded Universe is on the radar for TVC. There's a few that I would absolutely love them to do, Mara Jade being the one that I would like the most. There's one in the 3.75 inch Black Series, and I think maybe if they could just update the head like they did with Shea Vizsla, then that could become a pretty good figure. You've also got Darth Plagueis from that line, which I would love a chance to get as well, and I think that would make an awesome card back in the vintage collection. Other characters that I think would be pretty cool would be Exar Kun, Karl Katan, characters like that. I also like characters from things that may be considered canon, but, you know, so are they Expanded Universe? I don't know, but, you know, things like Iden Versio and the second sister from the video games, you know, there's just a few for you that I would absolutely love on vintage cards. Spy Guy says, great video, boss. Question for next week: do you think it's possible to get an Imperial Shuttle for future HasLab? It's been years since there's been a 3.75 inch scale Imperial Shuttle. It would be great if they completely remade the ship with an interior with seats for stormtroopers in the back. So yeah, absolutely, this is something that my buddy Only One Kenobi has been pushing for. I completely agree with him, by the way. It would be awesome to have an Imperial Shuttle, especially if it was based on the Shuttle Tidarium with space for the heroes, basically. The most up-to-date version that we have from the Saga collection, I believe, is exactly the same mould that they used for the vintage Kenner version. It's never changed during the years. The only thing that I would say about it is if they were going to update it to make the cockpit bigger, to, you know, so you could get more characters in there, the rest of the ship would have to sort of scale up with it, and it would end up quite big. But, you know, maybe some HasLab projects are supposed to be big, so absolutely, I'm with you there. I would say there are other things that I'd probably want ahead of that, but it's a solid idea. Pesto Pizza 2001 says, hello BB, question for this Sunday. I was wondering why Hasbro don't do a Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary run of TVC figures like they do for the Black Series and the Retro Collection, mimicking the same characters. Hasbro love a repack, and I love thicker cardstock and more up-to-date paint apps and figure tweaks. Yeah, I think I'm understanding what you're saying. You're saying that the ones that they're doing in the Retro Collection and the Black Series, why don't they sort of update them in the Vintage Collection? And as whilst I kind of agree with that, it's some of those characters we only got like last year, I think, with the 50th anniversary. So if you're thinking about Leia Poncho Han Solo in his trench coat, things like that. We're getting the Biker Scout with the speeder bike. I'm just trying to think of some of the other characters that are in those waves. Wicket is a new one for the Black Series. You know, we've already had him reissued. What I would like to see Hasbro do for the Return of the Jedi 40th anniversary is give us some of the original 96 that we haven't ever had before. So a couple that spring to mind are more Ewoks. So, you know, Chief Chirper and Warwick. I'm pretty sure that you could use Lumat's body like they did for Paplu. I think especially Warwick, they're almost identical in terms of the vintage Kenner version, almost identical. So I don't think anyone would complain if they put out Warwick using that sculpt with the repaint and what have you. Chief Chirper, even maybe also they could use that same body. I don't know, but you know, those are just a couple that I want. I'm sure there's more that they could do from the original 96 for the 40th anniversary. I do know that there is more to be announced for the 40th anniversary. Some of those may check off the original 96, which would be good. So, but yeah, I get what you're saying, but you know, I just think the lines have run a different course, if you know what I mean. So I don't think many people would want them to do Wicket again, because we've had him in 2010 and he's already been reissued once before. Jesse Perez says, hey boss, question for next week. Do you think we could get a 4-pack Snowtrooper pack or maybe a Galactic Marine pack? So I've got these two here. I think the Snowtrooper is the more likely out of the two. However, I don't think that we'll get a 4-pack of this guy until he's updated. At least I hope not anyway. You know, it's a decent enough figure and everything, but I think if we're going to be getting a Snowtrooper 4-pack, like we have done with the Stormtroopers and what have you, then I'd want it to be a newer version of this one. There's lots of things that can be improved with this one. The Galactic Marine, unfortunately, although he looks cool, once again, for today's standards, I don't think they'd do a 4-pack of him, no. So I've got a couple of questions here. One was from Justin Vega and another from Bjorn Jardin, and they kind of talk about the same thing. And Justin Vega says, great video, Bosk. Got a question for next week. Given that the Galaxy of Adventures line was cancelled 2 or 3 years ago and the 5POA line no longer exists, do you think TVC should be the only 3 3/4 inch line available for collectors and casual fans, or do you think Hasbro should reinvent, reimagine an affordable yet TVC-like quality line of Star Wars action figures that focuses on main characters that have not been made or updated in the vintage collection? So yeah, I don't think it should be the only line that exists, because I know a lot of people like the retro collection, and that for me is completely different to the vintage collection. It's, you know, it's based on how those Kenner style 5POA figures, and they're even very much different to your standard 5POA figure that they used to do in the Galaxy Adventures line and things like that. However, I'm not too sure how they would do an affordable TVC-like quality line of figures, because if they are going to be TVC quality, then they will probably be the same price, basically. You know, are we prepared to compromise quality for a smaller price? I think there's definitely room for something where, you know, figures don't necessarily need the full articulation of like a trooper or a Jedi. You know, possibly like Imperial officers, droids, things like that. You know, they don't really need super articulation as much as I say, like a trooper or a Jedi. So maybe there's room for something like that. But in terms of paint apps and everything, I would really still want them to have, you know, vintage collection quality, because that's the standard that we're at. We're in 2022, and I just don't really want to go backwards to like 5POA versions of like Saw Gerrera and 2 Tubes. I want Saw Gerrera and 2 Tubes in vintage collection super articulated format. You know, as much as those figures look cool, you know, with their sort of straight arms and everything, it's just not for me. So that's kind of where I'm at with it, basically. Alright then guys, that's it for this week's video. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget, if you do have a question for next week's episode, leave it in the comment section below and hopefully you'll be featured. Once again, thank you so much to my Patreon supporters and channel members. Your support means a huge amount to me, so thank you so much for that, and thank you all for watching. And don't forget, if you haven't subscribed to the channel already, hit the subscribe button. That part is free. Alright then guys, thanks so much for watching, and we shall see you on the next one.